Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and today we are back to talk about Dickinson. This time we are getting into all of the spoilers about Season 2, Episode 4. If you are new here, I will link a playlist of all of my Dickinson reviews up in a card, and feel free to subscribe if you want to keep up with all of my coverage of this season. If you watched my spoiler-free review of this episode that I posted last week, then you will know that I told you pay attention to the title, because it's important. Do you all get it now? References to daisies and the sun. They make a lot more sense now, don't they? But before we get to that, let's start from the beginning. I said last week that episode 4 is picking up directly off of episode 3, the same way the baking contest of episode 2 directly facilitated the seance of episode 3. Episode 3 ended with this really awkward, cringe-inducing exchange of Emily being so hyped about this epiphany that, yes, she wants to have her work published. She doesn't want to run away from fame, regardless of the fact that it is fickle and people get weird when you become famous because of your art. She says, "Here you go, Samuel. Here is my poem. Publish it, please." Then this man goes, "Okay, I'll put it to the top of my pile." Episode 4 is dealing with the consequences of that, not quite a rejection, but we'll call it a speed bump. We're opening the episode with Emily being extremely frustrated by the slow process of getting her work published. She is reeling from the indecision of Samuel Bowles, publishing giant. So what happens? She gets writer's block. Ah, yes. One of the many pains of being an artiste. I really like the way this season is exploring so many facets of being an artist. The fickle nature of fame, what we want the legacy of our art to be, and now, writer's block. I said last week how this episode was going to be a probing episode, as all of you will have now seen. It's exploring the thoughts and feelings of these characters. I didn't want to outright say this in my spoiler-free review, but you will see now that this episode is pretty light on plot. Most of what you see is just a slight continuation of things that have already been introduced, but we are digging deeper into the layers of those things for each of our main characters. When I first started posting reviews about Dickinson Season 2, there was a lot of commentary going on, not necessarily about my reviews specifically, but apparently about all of the reviews getting released once the press embargo had lifted, because there was a lot of discourse about Austin and Sue. Now that episode 4 has aired, I think maybe more of the fans can start to get an idea of what is going on with these two as individuals, as a married couple, and why the people reviewing the show are talking about them the way that they are. I don't think all that many people cared for Austin as a character in season 1, but like I said in some of my earlier reviews about this season specifically, he is finally starting to get some character growth. It's not right for him to pressure Sue to give birth to a child when she doesn't want to. I've already addressed that in other reviews. If she doesn't want to put her body through all of that, she shouldn't have to. However, the Dickinson family is in a financial predicament. They've gotten custody of Clara and Anna Newman, Austin's cousins. Yes, there is a financial incentive for the Dickinson family to take them in, but it doesn't change the fact that they are orphans who need a home. Are they acting out? Yes, but they are orphans. It's traumatic to be a child and have the people raising you die, and then you have to go off and live with someone else. Here's the thing. Austin did not ask for those kids to be brought there so he could be a father. These kids were brought into the Dickinson home because of financial reasons, but now Mama Dickinson is fed up. She is exasperated. She doesn't want the kids to be there anymore. She already had her own 3 kids and she raised them. So Austin steps up and offers to take them in to his home. Keep in mind that this season started with him being predominantly focused on indulging Sue's every whim. him. What do you want? You want something vapid and unnecessary? Because you're becoming materialistic now? Okay, I'll buy it for you. But over the course of the premiere, he started to realize that's not how he wants to spend the family money, and that's not the type of life he wants to live. That is what we call character growth. Also, it's refreshing to see a man be open enough with his emotions to express how he wants to have a family and to be a father, to put the work in to raise children who need guidance, especially when they're adopted. I know a lot of you don't like Austin because of season 1, and don't get me wrong, I've said this before, I didn't like him in season 1 either, but I cannot deny that he's getting on track here. He's shifting from being a boy to a man. And if Sue doesn't want to give birth to a child, I already said, and I will say it again, she should not have to do that. However, there are children here now, and they need a home, and you've got a big, rich person house with all that space, and you want to catch an attitude about orphans being brought in. So sorry that the orphans may prove distracting when you're busy planning another stupid, rich person party. Now, remember what I said before, if you've been watching my reviews? You already know that I talked about how all of the things Sue is doing that have caused reviewers to not be her biggest fan make sense based on everything she's been through. They communicate very clearly in this episode that she does not want 2 living reminders of her terrible past. I get that. But the takeaway from this that we as viewers can learn is that you cannot hold on to this pain from your childhood and adolescence to the point that you are now harming other people. It's already bad enough if you are harming yourself by marinating in your pain, but you are taking it to a whole other level if you are so caught up in the fact that you had a hard childhood. Imagine that, a woman having a hard childhood in the 1800s. That you are now harming children, and you are an adult now. She lost her family when she was younger, so she should be more understanding and empathetic to the tragedy these girls are going through, more than anyone else. And yet Austin is the one who has to tell her, have a heart. This is what happens when you don't work on your traumas. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, but is it necessary? Absolutely. Go to therapy. Did they even have therapy in the 1800s? When was Sigmund Freud alive? Sigmund Freud is the bane of the existence of every person that has ever had to study psychology, by the way. I'll just tell you that right now. If I never hear about the Oedipus complex again, what a great life that would be. The Dickinson parents have their time this week to flesh out a bit more of their relationship woes. To be quite honest, this is my least favorite plot of this episode. It's not that I think it's bad, I just care about these characters the least. It was admittedly funny that Mama Dickinson threw herself into that giant hole in the yard to force him to finally have that conversation with her, but I don't know if we really got answers or a resolution. She wants to know what happened to their relationship, and he just says, "We got old." Okay, and she's asking you to let her throw it back 1 time a year. The bar is on the floor. When does she ever ask for anything? All she ever does is be the traditional housewife. Anyway, let's talk about someone whose story I do enjoy. Lavinia, my girl, she is out here week after week doing it for the people. She's out here throwing it back on Mr. Shibley, and when he isn't sure if he should leave since he's been spending so much time in her room, what does she say to him? It's hot. I love breaking the rules. Break those rules, Lavinia. Do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want. Everyone here is single, consenting, and of age. You're not hurting anyone. Live your life. Lavinia is just so much fun to watch this season. I say that in every review, but I'll say it again. She is embodying that feeling that so many women have in any time period of wanting to push back against these old traditional expectations of what we're supposed to do. The Dickinson showrunner, Elena Smith, has said that the show, Dickinson, is supposed to use the works and life of Emily Dickinson to say something about our own society that we, the audience, live in. And what I love to see is that this episode dragged public proposals. You know these damn proposals have gotten even worse since the rapid development of technology and social media. Why do you always have to make a spectacle of your proposal? Why are you getting everyone else involved in your relationship? Are we in a throuple? Oh, we're not? Then let me live my life minding my own business and not knowing what is happening in your relationship. The fact that they had this guy, Mr. Shibley, put together this spectacle, defacing property that does not belong to him, getting anyone and everyone in their social circle involved with this proposal, when she has already been very clear that she is not trying to be that girl, that demure little wallflower, that traditional wife/housemaid. Lavinia is not about that life. But do you ever listen? Imagine that, a straight man who doesn't listen. The Dickinson writers decided they had time today to drag them. Did I or did I not say that Lavinia would be the gift that keeps on giving this season? And was I wrong? And we're only on episode 4. More to come. More to stand. Finally, Emily Dickinson. Obviously, I was going to talk about her last because a lot of the material in this episode is focusing on her. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, Emily is struggling with writer's block. And if any of you watching this have experienced writer's block, you know you will do some weird, random things instead of writing. We've got her bird watching with her father, and then she goes on this artistic quest with a landscaper. She's getting lost in a maze after being encouraged to get lost. It's not as dramatic of a journey for Emily as the seance was, but they do serve similar purposes. The seance was a hyperbolic storytelling vehicle to get Emily to come to this realization that yes, she wants to put herself out there and become famous regardless of the downsides of fame. She wants her art to be remembered. This time, the journey of hanging out with this landscaper is to dive deeper into analyzing the artistic process and to not lose sight of the art even when you get a corporate figure or entity involved. This is diving into the complications of being a professional artist, when you have to think about getting the approval of the people that decide whether or not to distribute your work, and you also will eventually have to deal with a barrage of opinions that come from the people who consume your art, but that's probably a bit further down the line than what this episode was focusing on specifically. The way I interpreted this episode's material for Emily is that the writers of the show are pushing this idea that the artist needs to be the driving force and voice of the art before anyone else. This landscaper is telling Emily the audience is irrelevant. The work itself is the gift, not the praise for it. Understand that, and you will understand true mastery. Refuse to be the daisy and start being the sun. That's the overall thesis of the episode, and it's what Emily and all artists that watch the show are supposed to take away from this chapter of her larger story across this series. So then when we reach the end of the episode and Emily has seemingly had this epiphany about not letting the whims of your editor get in the way of your creative voice, what happens? Samuel Bowles shows up and tells her, "Great news, I read your poem, it was great, I'm going to publish it. We're going to celebrate this victory for Emily." But then, what does he say? "I'm going to publish you, my little daisy." And here I was thinking we'd made some progress. Did I or did I not say when I first started posting reviews about Dickinson Season 2 that this man was going to bring drama to the story? We haven't even gotten started yet. We're on episode 4. Things are going to become even more complicated? Is that the word I'm looking for? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Don't forget to like and comment since engagement is essential. What did you think of this week's episode? Let me know. I would love to chat about it, hear some of your thoughts. Also, subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews of the rest of the season. While you are here, go ahead and check out my reviews of Servant Season 2. By the time I post this review, I will have started posting those. If you think Dickinson is dramatic, Servant has Rupert Grint being sassy and drinking a lot of wine. You don't want to miss out on that, do you? Also, you can follow me on my social media accounts. Everything is in the description box. See you in my next Dickinson review, which will be my spoiler-free review of episode 5. We are fast approaching the midway point of the season. It's very exciting. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.